Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to a Spellweaver video. Haven't done one of these in about 2 months. So yeah, as I said in my last video, I am doing Spellweaver streaming for this week, and also a couple of videos. Why? Because two things. One, invitational coming up that I need to practice for, and two, Steam release. Big deal, because it means the player base has already skyrocketed. Just immediately. I mean, the amount of people we had watching the podcast yesterday was about triple what Spellweaver normally has on Twitch, which is just ridiculous. And that was in the first day. So, yeah, they released a patch with 37 card changes. 37! What? Yeah, so it's 31 and then 6 new cards. It's insane. Well, I guess it's technically more than 6 new cards because they replaced some stuff. But 37 cards changed overall. And as we saw a little Steam thing come up, yep, the game is actually on Steam now, which is a big deal for me because it means that I don't have any patching issues with the game anymore, since that was an issue for me. So anyway, me, Fuzz, Senelion, and Rajan went over this in depth for 3 hours on a release podcast. This video is going to be a lot shorter than that. We'll see how long it is, but I'm going to be running through a lot of these and kind of giving the bit more educated responses on some of these, because I've actually played with some of the cards now. So anyway, first things first, order, and we'll go over the Incarnates at the end. Touch of Light. Touch of Light has been upgraded from +1/+1 on Lifebound to a Might emblem. This is a significant increase. Touch of Light is a very powerful card now, and it has a incredibly broken interaction with the blue Incarnate, but we'll get to that later. Might emblems are far superior to temporary buffs, and will mean that Order just can't lose to Rage if they're running Touch of Light. It's also a combat trick. It's just insane. It's one of probably the buffs that was really necessary, and I really, really like this. It means that soldiers got hit really hard, but then they have Touch of Light now, which is a really, really good combat trick. So Touch of Light is very, very good. Very, very good in Trials as well. Dwarf Spellbreaker. Dwarf Spellbreaker replaced Dwarf Musketeer. It is now a 2/2 with 2 speed, still costs 2 mana and a white, or order. And it has +1 speed as long as the enemy hero controls a spell, and whenever it deals combat damage to a hero, destroy a spell that hero controls. Now, this is one of the new ways of dealing with artifacts and spells. Basically, they have changed it completely to where each faction has at least one method of dealing with an artifact or a spell in some situational way. So Corruption now has one, then you've got Gnome and Unicorn were nerfed, so they can only focus on one thing, and then Rage has the artifact removal creature, but also has other ways of destroying artifacts. And in the case of Order, they have Spellbreaker, but also, as we'll see later, Ray of Righteousness deals with spells now. And then Dominion has Mind Extortion, but can't interact with it once it's on the board. I really, really like what they've done. I think it's very, very good. And Spellbreaker will see you play regardless, not so much for his abilities, but more because, I mean, the abilities will come up every so often, but it's more because he's a 2-drop. He's a soldier, you need him. He's a good man. Griffin Rider. Yes, Griffin Rider got another buff. So Griffin Rider was just given Knight before, which was kind of laughable. Now it has Ranged, which makes it a respectable pick in Trials. Don't play it in Constructed, still not worth it. But for Trials, ranged creature with flying, you can buff it up, and it won't die to any deadly creatures. You can't burn it out now with a creature if it blocks, things like that. Yeah, it's a decent buff to the card. Warden. This feels unnecessary. Warden was given +1/+1, and it can't attack, which was okay, thank you. If this could attack, it'd be the most broken, 3 ever. It's still very powerful. Like, you can actually block with Warden efficiently. The effect was always strong. I'm not sure why this got buffed. It does nerf Noxious Fumes indirectly, and also it still dies to Assassinate and such, but you can always take those spells. It still dies to Advanced Zash. That's important, but I don't know. We'll have to see if this is too strong. Order got mixed around a little bit, but we'll see the Incarnate. Maybe it's a bit too much. So yeah, there's a lot of we're gonna have to see how the balancing issues work out, because there's a lot of overpowered cards in a vacuum. However, they kind of cancel each other out. So we'll see. But I think Spellwarden's a bit too strong. But Mono Order has its upsides, and it may be enough to actually make Mono Order playable again, for better or for worse. Path to Transcendence got redesigned again. It's now 2 mana, and you can sacrifice it to draw a card. And instead of having its old ability, you can now put things under the path, and whenever it leaves play, all of the creatures under the path come onto the field, and you get your Might Emblem, and they're exhausted, so that you can't, you know, just block everything. It does mean you can't attack immediately, although you kind of can anyway, because you just put them onto the board at the end of your opponent's turn, and you can attack immediately. This is way worse than the other path. A lot of people are complaining that it's got nerfed. However, I don't think it's anything to do with balance. I think it's to do with design. The old path was stupid. It was useless against aggro and broken against control. And that's a bad card design. So they redesigned it. You can still reuse your enter battlefield effects. You can still draw the card off it, get your Might Emblems. That's fine. Just don't abuse the living hell out of it like the old decks did, looping the Karthus and everything. The old path was just badly designed, so I'm glad this has been changed. I think Path will still see some play, but it won't see much. But the other Path didn't see much anyway, because it was really bad against aggro, and that was a lot of the latter. So I'm fine with Path being changed. Numerous Blessings just here because it's got a wording change from can't be chosen as a target to what it actually does, which is enemy spells, hero skills, cards, or card powers. The reason this was done was because it was really stupid, because the wording kind of implied you couldn't attack it, but you could, or you couldn't block it, but you could. So now it's kind of saying, yeah, you can use it, you can interact with it in combat, but that's about it. Card is exactly the same. We'll see some very fringe play, as Nimir's Blessing always has. Ray of Righteousness. Now, this is a very, very strong buff to this card. It can now destroy enemy spells as well. Now, first of all, Ray of Righteousness is already a very playable card. Second of all, I know that 3 mana to destroy a spell is a lot. I mean, if you're destroying a sleep, that feels awful, but the point is that you didn't have any way of dealing with them before, and sometimes you just need to kill that spell, and now you can. So, Ray of Righteousness buff also kind of makes Spellbreaker less powerful in general, but I think they fit in different decks regardless. But I really like Ray of Righteousness's change. On to blue, we've got Sleep, again, just a wording redone, so it has 1 less energy, but its ability was changed to start of the turn instead of 2 energy once per turn. It was the weirdest wording ever. So, yeah, they changed the wording so that you can actually understand it. Charged Aurite, it's back. We've got the original Charged Aurite back, 1 mana 1/1 with 1 energy instead of 0. This, along with a few other cards, basically the metagame changing, and also some nerfs to other cards that were good against the deck, along with a new Incarnate, means that Tempo Wisdom is a very strong deck, and I'm trying to work on a build right now that's actually good, because you got your Aurites, you got your new 2-drop in the Incarnate, which we'll get to, and unicorns and gnomes can only hit half of your stuff now instead of everything. So, yeah, the Tempo Wisdom archetype has been buffed significantly by this patch, and I'm fine with it because I love Tempo Wisdom. I'm all about Tempo Wisdom. But, yeah, this is one of the pieces that it was just too weak. It wasn't even played in Tempo Wisdom, which needed a 1-drop, and everything in that deck is energy-based, and they didn't play the energy 1-drop. That's just embarrassing. Like, it's the equivalent of not playing Zombie Legionnaire in a zombie deck. It was just stupid. So I'm glad they buffed it back up. Is it too strong? Maybe. It wasn't too strong when they nerfed it, in my opinion. However, Tempo Wisdom has been given more options now. So I think maybe the deck itself is more powerful than the parts in it. Gnome. Now, Gnome and Unicorn got hit quite hard. Gnome, I think, got hit harder. Gnome can now only destroy artifacts, not spells, and if you do, you can transfer 2 energy instead of the cost of the artifact or spell. Now, if you're killing your own reactors or your opponent's reactors, which is surprisingly common, by the way, this is actually a buff. If you're killing lamps, anything like that, it's a nerf. Was this necessary? Yes. Gnome and Unicorn were too strong, and it also meant everyone had to play either blue or green to deal with spells and artifacts. Now, every faction has a method of dealing with one or the other, and you just play around the other ones. So, what can't this kill now? The significant ones. Burning Rage, which got buffed. Force Field, that's an important one. So yeah, Burning Rage, Force Field, Grand Reunion, I'm not joking, that might actually come up. Probably not, but you never know. Path. It can't kill this kind of stuff. However, it can still kill Portal, Reactor, Lamp. It can still kill like half of the stuff, but it's no longer the most versatile of the destructions. Well, technically, Test of Time is the only one that can kill anything now, but no one's going to play Test of Time. But yeah, we'll see later on that the Corruption one has its own drawbacks, but it can at least deal with single threats better than Gnome can right now. But Gnome is still going to see play. You kind of still need it, and there's a lot of artifacts running around, and things like Reflector need cards like this to exist. Jinnah Wishes. Jinnah Wishes is now a brick wall. It's a 2/5. The problem is that basically the reason this card doesn't see much play is not because of the stats, it's because of the cost. The effect is quite strong, and it does mean that in some decks it will see play, like in Reactor decks, or I was about to say Burning Rage decks. The thing is, Burning Rage kind of makes up for the Reactor anyway. I mean, not Reactor, Reflector decks. So, but now you have Burning Rage, and it's less painful, so you actually don't even need the Jinn anymore. This does buff Kayanu, because he actually does use it for the stats, but I'm not sold on that. So I'm just going to say that I don't think this will see any more play than it did, and it's still not a very good card. Dust Titan got an energy decrease. I think this is a safety valve, to be honest. You can't shock 2 creatures at once now, which means you actually have to work for it. I think the reason they did this is they didn't want it to be as good on its own in an energy deck, because the energy deck itself got buffed colossally. So, yeah, I think that's why they nerfed it. It's a safety valve, because they don't want this, like, crazy energy deck that you just can't do anything about to run rampant. So, that's fine. I'm actually completely okay with Dust Titan being changed. Silencer, the old one's back. So, well, I see the old one, the second version is back. So, what Silencer does now, for those of you who didn't play back then, it has 5 energy, and each time you play a card, it cancels it, so it doesn't happen, and it loses the cost in energy, the mana cost. Then, after it counters a spell, or a creature, or an artifact, whatever, when it counters a card, if it has 0 energy, you sacrifice it. So basically, you have to put 5 mana worth of stuff into this, and it's always a 2-for-1, and it was a very, very powerful control card. And I think Wisdom Dominion with Jotto Silencer and Karthus will probably be a thing again, although Karthus did get nerfed. However, that deck received some other goodies as far as that's concerned. So I think the Silencer is very, very strong. Wisdom Dominion mirror matches are still stupid. In fact, I think they're even more annoying than they used to be now because of a certain new Incarnate in Dominion. So, you probably won't be seeing me playing Wisdom Dominion because I really, really, really hate the mirror. But the Silencer's back. It'll see some play. It always has. It's always been like the strongest epic in the game, debatably, and it still is. Although I think the strongest cards in the games now are rares. A lot of the epics have fallen off and been nerfed a little bit. So I still think it's one of the strongest epics, and it will see some play. Also, Silencer with Corruption and Discard is a very powerful combination. Basic Neva. Basic Neva got its cooldown increased to 4. This is now the highest cooldown on any ability, I want to say. I think even Basic Despina has it at 3. So, yeah. This is a very, very high cooldown on a basic ability. And I think it's necessary. Neva's ability was mechanically broken. We actually talked about this a couple of months ago. Back when they were fiddling around with 25 life. And the ability itself is mechanically broken because it stops you from making creatures that are interesting. Like, think about it. Elves got broken by Brother-in-Arms of all things. Like, come on, guys. And Word-of-Vigor. But the point is, Word-of-Vigor was around before. Brother-in-Arms is what, like, put it over the top a bit, which is just ridiculous. Like, you can't have an ability in the game that hoses design that much. So I'm happy they changed this. The idea is now you can use it once in the early game to have a value term, say Brother-in-Arms, and then in the late game you can use it to finish. But you can only use it twice a game, maybe 3 times, probably only twice a game. Whereas before you could use it 3 times a game, you could go like value, value, finish, or value and then burn and then burn. So it was just really silly. So I'm glad they've changed this. Now, because they've nerfed Basic Neva, it means that they can buff up some of the other elf decks, like the Advanced Neva decks. So, Summoner Druid is now a 1-2. I like this change, and the reason I like this change, and no one saw this coming, the reason I like this change is because it buffs up the mana pool decks. Like, they go Summoner Druids, and they go Moon Priestesses, and then just go crazy with all the mana. And that's actually okay now. And you also have Grand Reunion for card draw, and the new Incarnate for card draw, which I don't think works, because the Incarnate's a bit too weak. But they're trying to add in the tools for this. Will it see a lot of play? Maybe. I mean, if there's an elf deck, it will be played, because it's not a bad body on it, and it ramps you. And I think this makes up for basic Neva's nerf, that's for sure. So I think Summoner Druid, warranted buff, in my opinion, to help out some of the other decks. Word of Vigor, oh, the Sledgehammer nerf. Now, this is basically the opposite of what they did to, what's it called? Touch of Light, yeah. So this is basically the opposite. They changed it from might counters to temporary buff, which is a massive nerf. And I actually think that Amber Strike just beats this completely now. I don't think you can even play Word of Vigor. I think Amber Strike just beats it out completely, and if you're Word of Vigoring for, like, massive amounts of damage, like, if you get your 4 damage out of your Word of Vigor, because that's the same mana cost as Amber Strikes, yeah, you draw 2 cards, but if you're doing that on a pump spell, you're probably winning the game, or if just 1. Now, you also need all the nature levels. Now, I will say this is still a very versatile combat trick, because if you have, like, 3 nature levels, you can go pump, 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 and then trade into all your guys, or you could just landslide them. So, yeah, I don't think this will see a lot of play. It's still a powerful combat trick, but I think there's just better ones. Unicorn. Now, Unicorn had the opposite treatment to Gnome. It can now only destroy spells. Now, Test of Time can still destroy artifacts, but no one plays Test of Time. So anyway, it can destroy spells now, and not artifacts. Sorry about that. Anyway, so the main thing that this can't destroy is Lamp. It can also Helm. Helm and Lamp are the big artifacts. It can still deal with Burning Rage and Force Field and blah blah. It can't deal with Reactor, Helm, Reflector. A lot of the Wisdom stuff, basically. Wisdom and Dominion have all the artifacts. So all of that stuff. Can't deal with any of that stuff in Wisdom and Dominion, which means that green has been significantly nerfed against Wisdom and Dominion control, because they have all of the artifacts, and it's really brutal. So, yeah, and in fact, with the less artifact removal, you can probably get away with running reactors instead of Cataclysm in some aspects, but the problem with that is there's a lot of big creatures in Dominion right now. Grand Reunion. This got 2 changes. First of all, its mana cost decreased by 1, which is fine, because it means you can play multiple cards in 1 turn more easily. And its effects got changed in a significant way. Instead of being able to search for level 2 creatures in the top 5, you may put a fairy, elf, plant, or spirit from them onto the battlefield. Now this means you can get any of the incarnates from any color, any of the elves from Dominion, every green creature, I think all of them fit into one of those creature types. You can get any green creature at all, which is a big deal, because it means you can get all the 3-level creatures, which is the reason why the old Grand Reunion was bad, because it was a controlling card, and it could not get your powerhouse green creatures. It was stupid. So now it actually can, and it can get all of the incarnates, and on top of that, you can get all the elves out of Dominion. You can get Mesmerizing Spirit from Corruption. There's some synergy in other colors. Maybe there is a Nature Dominion control deck where you can run Sunchaser Aurites, and you can run the Dominion Incarnate, and you can keep searching these up and just beat your opponent to death with them. I think that might be quite powerful, and pretty much only Order and Nature are going to be able to kill a Grand Reunion. So I think that's potentially very powerful. We will see. Now, here's the real spell you want to be killing. This is Burning Rage. Now, Burning Rage has received 1 change. The amount of damage it does has been halved to 1, and it also does it at the end of turn. Now, this effectively does nothing. The end of turn, beginning of turn thing. In fact, I'm pretty sure it does nothing. Because the reason I say this is because if you end your turn, you take 1 damage, and then your opponent attacks you. You still took the 1 extra damage, whereas before you would just end his turn and you would take the damage. I guess it kind of stops your opponent from wasting his time a little bit if you, like, Burning Rage yourself to death. Maybe it just is a bit better that it's, like, end of turn, not beginning. It just flows better. That's probably why they did it. Now, this has 2 main things. First of all, Force Field blocks Burning Rage completely. It's not life loss, it's damage. So Force Field blocks the Burning Rage effect, the drawback, and it's just the most insane ramp spell ever. Second of all, I've been playing a mono red deck with Burning Rage, 4 of them, and it's very good. Like, as in any mid-range deck you win against. You basically have a New Horizons that draws 5 cards every game. It's ridiculous. The drawback is non-existent half the time. I think in one game I was playing, I'm currently 8-1 with the deck. And the only time I lost was to Clone playing Angels, and I didn't get my Burning Rages. Because Angels is very good against red, and the only way you can win against that is with a Burning Rage and lots of Word of Fires. That's basically the only way you can do it. So, yeah, the card is incredibly powerful, and we were talking about this, and apparently the old Burning Rage deck, the Dominion Rage one, doesn't work anymore because it's too slow. However, with an aggro deck, you got your 8 1-drops, you got like 7 2-drops, and then Burning Rage, since you got your new 2-drops, are better late game than the old 2-drops. There's less spell removal. I think this is a very powerful card, and I'll see a lot of play. Which decks? We'll find out. I'll probably be playing them, though, because this seems to work best with Wisdom and Rage, 2 of my favorite colors. Ruination. Still bad. So basically, this just got changed from, I think it was like 5 mana, 1 general, 1 red, or something. I don't even know. I think most people forgot this card exists. But yeah, it's now 4 mana, 2 red, destroy all artifacts, not just each player just like sacrifices 3 or something. It's still okay, sure. Like, what does this do? Like, you kill your opponent's golems, but they still have their force field and their foundry engineers, and they just make more. And the reason I'm saying tempo wisdom is because, like, this doesn't do anything, as far as I know. Like, compared to the old one, it's not really a buff. Like, it's not like it's gonna be. I guess you could kill lamps, but you can already do that with like the goblins. So I don't know. This just seems really bad. Ruination's always been bad, but yeah, I'm just going to move past that. Dominion. Dominion got tons of changes. We got, first off, Power Surge. Now, some of you may remember, a while ago, I suggested changing Power Surge to draw a card. And I was told it was too powerful. Which was probably correct, in hindsight. Well, it was definitely correct with what they've done to Dominion now. But, it was probably correct at the time. So what they've done is they've said if you have 5 or more mana crystals after using Power Surge, you draw a card. So it's a ramp spell that if you have a second one or you play them later on in the game, they cycle. Cool. That's actually good. I like this. I like this change, and more importantly, it gives non-wisdom decks a ramp spell. Because it technically existed before, but didn't really. So now, Dominion Wisdom will probably still play, or Wisdom Dominion Control, probably still play New Horizons. Maybe Power Surge, depends on the deck. But anyway, probably New Horizons. But Corruption Dominion has Power Surge, which means they have 4 Power Surges in their deck, and they have more mana for all of their mana-hungry stuff, which is important. And Nature Dominion, say if you want to run a Grand Reunion deck, you want some ramp, so you can run Power Surge, and you get your ramp, whereas before you had this really awkward elf that only the elf pool deck could play, and you could remove it, and it's just awkward. So, I'm very, very happy that Power Surge got this buff. Silverblade Warrior. Speaking of necessary buffs, Silverblade Warrior was completely useless before. It was basically a strictly worse version of Elite Vanguard. Now it has 3 speed, and I actually think this would be constructed playable. I think it still is if you're playing an aggressive Dominion deck, because you need more than just 4 3-drops. But in the mid-range control decks, not so much, because if you're playing a 2-color deck, there's probably a better 3-drop in the other decks, and if you're playing a more mid-range control Dominion deck, you only need your Incarnates, because Silverblade Warrior does fall off a bit more in the late game. It does have decent stats for the late game, but it does fall off a little bit. So I'm going to say this won't see that much constructed play. For Trials, though, really like this. I like this buff. Bloodseeking Mutant. This is interesting. So, Mutant has gone through a lot of redesigns. This is another one. It's now 3 mana, 2 levels, 1 Dominion. It's a 2/3 for 2. And when you play it, it puts a weakness emblem on a non-vampire. And when a creature with a weakness emblem dies, put a might emblem on the mutant. Now, a lot of people were saying immediately, oh, control is dead, mutant's gone. I'm like, come on, guys. Mutant is not gone. The card is still pretty good. Like, seriously, the old mutant, the reason they got rid of it was just because it was finicky. I don't even think it was that much stronger than this one, to be honest, because it was easier to remove if you had it on the front row in combat. The one before that, the one that could be on the back row, that was broken. But the mutant after that, I'm not sure if it even was broken. I think the reason they changed it was because it was breaking trials, and it was also just really annoying to play against. This version is still very strong. Keep in mind, that it is 1 mana less. That's a big deal. This is library guards, basically, is what it's comparing to. It's worse than library guards, for what it's worth. But anyway, so you can put a weakness emblem on something, and then, if that creature dies, or anything with a weakness emblem, so implants, vampiric touch from the land, anything with the weakness counter dies, it gets bigger. So the main thing is, against aggro, you play your mutant, you kill one of his 1-drops, you get your 3/4. You win the game. That's basically what. And I think mutant is a lot better than people giving credit for, and it's, yeah, I think the card is actually quite good. It is probably comparable in power level to the old one. Helm of Dominion. This was changed to 2 Dominion. This is necessary because there's less artifact removal in the game. And yeah, that's basically why. There's less artifact removal in the game, so Helm would get much stronger, and there's also a lot more like vanilla-based creatures, so Helm gets stronger. So now they had to nerf it a little bit. I'm completely fine with this. On top of that, you need to play more Helms in Dominion, because Karthus got changed, which means Helm is your way of dealing with big things now, not Karthus. So, yeah, the Helm of Dominion is a very, very valid change, and I still think the card is incredibly good. It's one of the best cards in the game at the moment. Blood War Matriarch. Blood War Matriarch has been changed, so his level requirements are less, well, incredibly difficult. Now it's only 1 Dominion you can splash in. I like this because with double Dominion you can go up to Helm and Karthus. However, I don't think you need Karthus anymore, and in some color combos, you do not need Helm. However, what can you splash now? Blood War Matriarch, Bloodseeking Mutant, you can splash the Incarnate, even if it only has 1 speed, it will win the game, and you can also get the Sacrifice, or Vampiric Touch. These are all very, very useful, which means, again, Corruption Dominion might be a thing, so I really like the way they've actually gone with this. It's very, very good. Now, Blood War Matriarch was a powerhouse, but they nerfed a lot of the spells it could just abuse, like Splitting Headache and Fireball, so now they've decided to make Matriarch a bit better. Not so much in terms of like how powerful it is to play, but in terms of the fact that you're less forced into going heavy Dominion to do it, which is appreciated. I really like this. Drayla. Now, they basically exchanged requirements with Drayla and Matriarch. So Drayla is now the Phoenix cost. 3 mana, 3 levels, big stats, abilities, the crazy big thing. That's fine. You've now got Sunchaser. Yeah, you've got Sunchaser, Drayla, Phoenix. These all kind of go together. And I really like the way they've done this. Now, they also changed her type from elf to human. And you may think, what? Why did they change that? Isn't that just direct nerf? Yeah, the reason is Grand Reunion. They don't want people putting Draylas in at the end of turn and stealing their opponent's stuff because they had extra mana lying around. That seems a bit broken. So I'm kind of happy they did that because I think they wanted to be a little bit careful with stuff like Grand Reunion. So they exchanged some creature types, which I think is fine. I think Grand Reunion is probably going to fit in a deck somewhere, and I think Drayla would have just been in that deck as a 3 or 4 of, because it's just too powerful to get like constantly. So yeah, I'm happy that Drayla got that change. Still absolutely insane in trials. Still not really playable and constructed. It's just too slow and is too easy to kill. Although, if you buff it up, now it doesn't die to a lot of things, so we'll see. It's a good sideboard card in tournaments running sideboard, but we'll have to see where Drayla goes. I think it's just going to be played very, very fringely, and yeah. The actual change to requirements doesn't change much, as I am getting a message from the devs. Alright, we'll get through the video. That's Exotic, one of the associate developers. Anyway, vampirism. Vampirism is now the old one. So, yeah, instead of losing 3 life, you lose 1 per creature, and you get your +1/+1. That means Vampirism Lamp is back, and that's about all that means. Vampirism Lamp is back, and you kind of can run it with Phoenix, but Ramgath got nerfed, so you can't do that anymore. Yeah, it's awkward. I never liked Vampirism as a card. It's definitely very powerful in Trials now, again, but I don't see this seeing much play. Let me just see what he actually has to say. So let me see if I can do this without breaking everything. Oh, right. He's just notifying me about, there's a Runelet Incarnate interaction that's... Oops. Accidentally, pressed the challenge game. But anyway, so yeah, basically there's a very I say broken, it's working as intended interaction with Runelet Incarnate, one of the Incarnates, and Might counters, which we'll get to later. So anyway, if we go on to Karthus, I think that's where it was. Karthus has been nerfed again. How many cards, like how many times has this thing been changed? I'm not even sure if this one's necessary, but anyway, so it can't destroy anything with more than 4 attack. Is this necessary? I mean, I think it's necessary just because Dominion would be too strong. Dominion has been historically the best color, not close, and I think now it's still very close to being the best color, not close, because of the new creatures, and also the fact that Helm is very powerful now. So maybe this was warranted. Karthus was kind of the end-all be-all of creatures because it could destroy anything. Still very powerful, but it doesn't mean it can't kill Vulture, Antriel, Dragon. These are the big ones. A lot of the Incarnates can escape it, so I think the nerf is fine. I think a lot of people are reacting to this, as I'll just check the message again. But anyway, yeah, I don't like showing messages on video. So anyway, I think that the nerf itself is fine. A lot of people were surprised by this. It does make sense. Not in a vacuum. Power level wise, I think he's fine. However, as far as like balancing Dominion out, I think this makes sense. So I'm going to say this is a fine change. On to Corruption. Hands from Beyond is back. Yeah. This is funny. So Hands from Beyond is actually better than the old version. It was removed and then added back in, kind of. But it was removed, but you could still craft it. It was awkward. So Hands from Beyond is back, and it's been changed from 3 mana, 1 level, to 2 mana, 1 corruption, 1 generic. Same ability. Still not playable and constructed. It's better in trials now because you can actually play it on curve properly instead of going way out of your way, because most of the time, like, the problem with 3 mana 1 level cards is you can't play them on curve with 2 aspects. So you can do that with Hands from Beyond now, which is a good thing. Herald of Despair. Oh, this was a big buff to this card this patch. Like, this card is absolutely amazing now. So it still has its old ability of being able to shred the energy of something, which I want to point out is huge now, because you've got a deck, Tempo Wisdom, which is all energy cards, and Herald can actually kill half of the cards. It can kill Force Field immediately, it can kill, it can drain Non-Stable Reactor, or kill it with the second ability now, or it can kill a Runelet Incarnate, which we'll get to. It can deal with just, like, sleeps. Like, pretty much everything in that deck dies to a Herald. All of the important stuff, at least. And it also lets Corruption deal with Phoenix. So some splash damage there. And new ability, besides the meta itself buffing the card, new ability, you can sacrifice Herald and each hero sacrifices an artifact. Now you can't target, which is really annoying. However, if they only have 1 artifact, you can just sacrifice and get that, or you can keep reanimate your Herald to get them multiple times, and you can run through his artifacts. And you can also sacrifice your own portals now at will without splashing another color. This is a massive buff to this card and is a very good card. I was playing Tempo Wisdom against the Fuzz on stream, and I got utterly annihilated by Heralds. Like, damn. Like, I won the game, but it was incredibly close, and that matchup should not be close. That matchup is normally like the Demons versus like Tempo Wisdom things, normally very lopsided, but Herald is just absolutely incredible against that deck. So it's a very powerful utility card, and I think it will be a 2 of at least, probably a 2 of, depending on the metagame, in every single Corruption deck. It lets you deal with your opponent's artifacts and half of the spells in the game that you will see. Like, think about it. Half of the spells in the game you will see have energy, because half of them are in Wisdom. It also kills Electrostatic Storm. You know, if you needed any more reason to play it. So it's the closest thing to Gnome, like the old Gnome that we have. and the old Unicorn. I think it's probably worse than Unicorn because of the stats, and I think it's better than Gnome. But it can't target artifacts to destroy them, which is awkward. So they have to only have one, and it means it's really bad against, like, Golem spam. But it still has a decent body, and I think the card is very, very good now, and we'll see lots of play. Tombs of the Damned. Now, this is Restless Tombs renaming, which makes sense because Restless Tombs was not a legendary sounding name, whereas Tombs of the Damned is. And on top of that, it has a slight buff to it, where when it leaves play, you get a zombie as well. This is relevant for two reasons. One, if they actually destroy your tombs, you get an extra zombie, so minimum you get 2. Second of all, you play tombs, you get a zombie. Next turn, beginning of your turn, you get a zombie, and then you play another tombs, legending out the other one, and they both make a zombie. So you get this army of zombies much more easily from multiple sets of tombs, which means that Corruption Dominion. Keep in mind, I mentioned this, Corruption Dominion, that only has to go up to 3 levels now because Karthus isn't necessary, and you don't need Helm because you have Infernal Tribute, and you can splash Matriarch. You can go up to 3 levels, and you've got all of the tools you need for this Corruption Dominion control deck. It's a deck people have been trying for ages, and now you finally have all the tools. You've got your Tombs of the Damned has been buffed, so you've got more tokens, more card draw off your sacrifice. You've got a ramp spell. This is the time for Corruption Dominion control. If it doesn't work with this, I don't know what. You even have artifact removal in the deck. One of the main issues with that deck was that besides Mind Extortion, you could not interact with artifacts, but now you've got your, what they called, like, heralds? Yeah, you've got herald to deal with them. This is the time for Dominion Corruption control. Will it work? I don't know. Will I try it? Yeah, definitely, because I always like that archetype. So anyway, that is all of the changes. Now, for those of you that haven't played recently, there was also a change to Divine Offering, which it now looks at top 5, not top 4, which has awkwardly not actually improved the mana screwing that does happen every 1 in 20 games or something. Why? Because everyone just runs less shrines now, which is actually still a good thing. And that's why I actually wanted this change anyway, because it means you have to play an extra card in your deck, which is appreciated. So now you run 20 shrines or even 19, maybe you can get away with 19, mostly 20, and instead of 21. That's basically all of that. So, on to the Incarnates. Oh boy, these are the new cards, the 6 new cards. First things first, Valasorn Incarnate. 1 mana, 1 order, 2 speed, Valasorn Incarnate's attack and HP are equal to your order level. Wow. This card is insane. Now, first of all, this is only insane in mono order, and I tried some other finicky stuff, and it just doesn't work. But in mono order, oh my god, this card is good. Why? Because it goes up to a 4/4 in Angels for 1 mana. Is ridiculous. It's a 4 of an Angels. It's a 4/4. This is not fair. It's a 1 mana 4/4. It's just not a fair card. And the other reason is Instill Life. You can resurrect 2 4/4s. Like, the problem with Instill Life is that, like, you look at your graveyard and it's like, alright, so I've got my Namir, but I can't get another one because it's legendary, right? It's fine. Just get the Valasorn instead. So now you've got your 4/4 and your 3/3 with amazing abilities, and it's just like, come on, that's such a powerful, like, so many stats. This is, in mono order, this is very comparable to Tarmogoyf from Magic. 1 less mana, but it's actually, and it doesn't cap, it has a lower cap, but early in the game, it's a 1/1, but you put it on the back row, they have to kill it because it will get bigger over time, and then it'll become a 2/2, and then that's already better than normal for a 1-drop, and then it becomes a 3/3, and then you play your Angel, you move it to the forward, you play 4/4s in the late game. It's a 1-drop that scales. This card is nuts. Now, I will say it only works in mono order, which is a good thing. Kind of. The reason I say kind of is you can actually play Order Wisdom right now, and you can play Valasorn Incarnate, and it will say, oh, you only get a 3/3 out of this, but it's still good. And on top of that, you can go up to Antriel, so you got your 3 order levels, and Antriel's very, very good right now because it doesn't die to Karthus anymore. So you got your Antriel, which is a very powerful creature currently, and then you got your Valasorn Incarnate, it's 3/3s for 1 mana, which is still insane. You got your basic Darius ability. there's some sort of Order Wisdom deck floating around, and there's also a very broken interaction, which is not a bug. That's what Exotic was actually messaging me about. I found this on stream. It's not a bug. It's intended. It's just a bit silly, which we'll get to. The other Incarnate. Wisdom Incarnate. Runelit Incarnate, as it's called. 2 mana, 1 blue level. Its attack and HP are equal to its energy, which is the same ability as the old Dust Titan. It gains 1 energy per turn, starts with 1 energy, and if it would be dealt damage, it loses that much energy instead. Now, first of all, it's a mini Dust Titan that gets bigger over time on its own, and you can pump mana into it, and this card is also insane. It's one of the Incarnates that's just like way too strong for multiple reasons. So the 2 decks that this works in the best, from what I can tell, are as follows. First of all, since we were talking about Valisworn, Order Wisdom. That second, or is it second? Third ability, I guess, the would be dealt damage thing, that leads to a very interesting situation with might counters. So basically, you don't take damage on this, and it goes down to 0 energy. Some of you may be able to see where this is going. So first of all, Deadly has no effect on it, neither does Frozen. These don't do things because it doesn't actually take damage. It can't take damage, it can't actually take damage, it loses energy instead, which means that Freezing and what's it called? Freezing and Deadly do absolutely nothing. Anyway, so besides that, if you have a +1/+1 counter on this, it will take damage to its energy. It will go down to 0 energy, and it is a completely indestructible 1/1 in combat. Now, it can still be killed, and the reason why I don't think this is like needs to be changed broken, because it's a 2-card combo and blah 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 blah, and it's also in a color combo that isn't very good. So sure, but anyway, so it can be killed by Noxious Fumes, or basically any minus effects. Weakness counters, Noxious Fumes, Sacrifice effects, Assassinate, things like that can be killed by Corruption and Dominion. It is completely invulnerable against red and blue, and Order can deal with it with Rave Righteousness when it becomes a 3/3, which only takes 2 turns, and also Pacify. However, if you're playing red and blue, good luck, because it's completely indestructible. Now, first of all, it's still a 1/1, so it's not that insane, since you can keep damaging it and it's fine. You can also use shock effects on it, but it does mean that there is this shell of 2 Incarnates in one deck, as I mentioned earlier, with Antriel maybe and some draw, where you can get your 1 mana 3/3s, and you can get your Runelit Incarnates that can't be killed in combat, and you've got 4 Instill Life that keep resurrecting these high quality low drops, these very powerful low drops. Now I mentioned there was another deck this is absolutely crazy in, and this is the deck that really does show the power of this card. Tempo Wisdom. I mentioned this earlier. There is an opening, which I have done a couple of times so far, where you can go Charge Dorite, Runelit Incarnate, transfer energy, next turn, Thaumic Laboratory, attack for 6 with your 2-drop. I've done this multiple times. It's an incredibly powerful card in Tempo Wisdom, because you can pump it up. It actually fits right into the deck. They did not have good 2-drops. It was the weakest mana slot, so now they have another good 2-drop. It works with energy synergy. You can pump massive amounts of things into it. It works with Unstable Reactor without actually turning the reactor on, so it won't blow up, because it's not an artifact, so you just pump up the Runelit Incarnate. And with Force Field, it won't get smaller much, because they're going to have to throw a couple of creatures in front of it, and Force Field reduces each creature by 1. It also has a weird interaction with Force Field, where it's like a stack thing, where you get to decide which happens first, the Force Field or the Runelit Incarnate's ability. Always choose the Force Field, because it means that the Force Field will take away a damage, and then the Runelit Incarnate has to lose that much energy. At least I think that's how it works. It's very complicated, and I need to play around with it a bit more to see how that actually works, because it's a complicated ability. But anyway, so basically you can pump energy into it and keep attacking on your 2-drop, and it's a very, very powerful card. Now, this Runelit Incarnate, along with the Dominion and Valisworn Incarnate, have actually caused Harpy to be a much stronger card. As I mentioned earlier, Corruption, Dominion, Control, it's probably going to be a thing, because they have all of the pieces, and Harpy is one of the best creatures in the game now, because it kills all of the Incarnates, which is incredibly strong. Well, I say all of the Incarnates, all the playable Incarnates. So, Ruinlet. Then we've got Lifeforce Incarnate, which is the worst of the cycle. It is a 3 mana, 2 green, and 1 generic. So very, very expensive cost. So we're talking about Phoenix, and in its own color, Sunchaser. Alright, that's what we're comparing it to. Its attack and HP are equal to the number of creatures you control, 2 speed, and at the start of your turn, you may return a creature card at random from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so I just want to go over what this first ability is and the problem with it. If we look at the other 2 Incarnates we've seen so far, keep in mind they're a 1-drop and a 2-drop. Basically a 3rd or a 6th, or not 6th technically. It's like, so this comes down on turn, let's see if I remember this, turn 5. Yeah, you add both of them together, the requirement and the cost, and then you take away 1. So yeah, this comes down on turn 5. The other ones were turn 1 and turn 2. So we're talking about massive, massive reductions in cost. And honestly, I think Lifeforce Incarnate will be the smallest of them. Valor will go up to a 3/3 or 4/4 consistently in the decks that run it. And the Wisdom one, Ruinlet, will go up to probably 4/4, 5/5, 6/6 regularly. And Lifeforce Incarnate's probably going to be a 2/2, 3/3 maybe. Alright, maximum size we're talking about here, 2/2 or 3/3. If it's anything more than that, you're probably already winning so much the second ability doesn't even come up. And the problem with this, and the reason I'm bringing it up, is because Sunchaser Aurite is the same cost, and it's a 4/4 that can burst to 4 speed. That's crazy. That's a crazy powerful ability. And if you're running like a Grand Reunion deck with Wisdom instead, like to kind of buff out the control stuff, then you've also got Thaumic Laboratory, which means you can actually use the ability multiple times. It's a fringe thing, but it will come up, the energy thing. So, Lifeforce Incarnate is already losing on the stats to its own color, basically. The second ability, you may return a creature card at random. Now, this is necessary because it stops you from looping Haldir Riders, Karthus, Library Guards, etc., all the stupid creatures. So, it's random creature from your graveyard to your hand. That is a powerful ability. It's card draw, basically. The problem is that you have to have it on the board for an entire turn, which doesn't sound too bad. Like, say, you leave it on the back row, they have to kill it, but it costs a lot. It's not a cheap creature. This is a very expensive creature. It costs a lot. I think the only time this is really going to come up is Grand Reunion. I think you play it in the Grand Reunion decks. Why? Because it's a spirit you can put into play, and it can keep card draw going. Maybe. Maybe you just play Sunchaser Aurite instead. I did try to make this card work, and it just wouldn't. I think this is the weakest of the Incarnates. Next, on to Flameborn Incarnate, the best art of probably any card in the game. Martin, you did a very, very good job, since they have the illustrator at the bottom. I think this is one of the best art pieces in the entire of Spellweaver. So, Flameborn Incarnate is a 2 mana, 1 red, with 2 speed. Most of the Incarnates have 2 speed. Flameborn Incarnate's attack and HP are equal to the level of the enemy hero. This is interesting. And it also has a fire breathing effect, which is 1 mana and you gain +1 attack till end of turn. Now this is fire breathing for magic, basically it's the same ability. But instead of being restricted to red mana, because we don't have colors of mana in this game, it's just 1 mana. Now, that first ability that dictates the attack and health is one of the most interesting abilities I've ever seen. It does mean that you can actually go for multiple mana before you go for any level. This does not happen often. It's very, very rare. But it does mean that you can't play a Flameborn Incarnate against someone who's land screwed, which is kind of funny. So yeah. Besides that, its normal size will be a 2/2. It will occasionally be a 1/1, and it will sometimes be a 3/3 as much as it will be a 1/1. Against control decks, it will be a 4/4. Now, that second ability is incredibly powerful, and I think this is the 4th most powerful Incarnate. However, it's on the constructed side and not on the non-constructed side. I've been playing this in mono-red mid-range, and it is incredibly strong. Why? Because it is a replacement to the Goblin 2-drop, which was being played just for its stats. 2 mana 2/2 is not exactly good. So it's being played just for its stats. This is far superior to that card, having actually played with it. We did have a discussion between the 4 of us, all the Acebreakers players, and we all agreed that Flameborn Incarnate was the 4th strongest, although I think that we were all disagreeing on how powerful it actually is. We all thought it was weaker than the Dominion, Wisdom, and Order one, and stronger than the Nature and Corruption, but we weren't really sure how strong it was. I thought it was very strong, and we had, I think, Rajan on the other side of things who thought it wasn't as good. But having played with it, it's quite powerful as a 2-drop. The second ability is a lot stronger than it looks for 2 reasons. First of all, in the late game, it's a 2-drop that hits very, very hard. Second of all, it means that if you stumble on curve, you go 1-drop, 2-drop, blank, because you don't have a 3-drop, then you actually just pump your 3 mana into your Flameborn Incarnate and you hit him for 5. And then suddenly, you've basically just got a fireball. So Flameborn Incarnate is actually quite powerful right now. So I do like this card, and it's actually, I haven't been playing Gibber and Ronnie in my recent red lists. Maybe that's wrong, but you've got so much stuff you want to play right now. You've got Flameborn Incarnate, you've got Burning Rage, you need to cut some stuff, and there's a lot of AoE running around right now and a lot of ping effects. So Flameborn Incarnate is a very, very strong card. It's not as powerful as the Wisdom and Order one, but it still has its place in its Rage decks, and I think it will still see a lot of play. It's also got its place in pretty much any red deck, and I think Rage Dominion mid-range will be playing this guy because he's a 2-drop that does not punish you in the late game because he's still just as relevant in the late game. On top of that, he works with Basic Despina. You can actually just pump him massive amounts with Basic Despina, and Blue-Red now has some good 2-drops, some good value 2-drops. So I think that, well, they have both Incarnates, so they have some good value 2-drops. So, on to what we all agreed as the best Incarnate, kind of. So basically, Senelion had the Wisdom one at the top, then the Dominion, then the Order. Me and Rajan had Dominion, then Order, but it's incredibly close, then Wisdom, and I think Fuzz had Dominion, Wisdom, Order. It was like very, very close between all of the top 3 Incarnates. But, oh my god, this one is insane. This is the Dominion Incarnate, Powerlust Incarnate. It is a 3 mana 1 level, so it's a 3-drop. Its attack and HP are equal to the number of mana crystals you have. Keep in mind they just got a ramp spell. And its speed is equal to your Dominion level, which means that, yep, in a 2-color control deck, it's a 2-speed creature. Or with New Horizons, 3-speed or 4-speed, which is what's been happening. You just don't run anything that requires 2 Wisdom. You run your Wisdom control deck, and you get your 3-speed 10/10 creatures. It also means that the Wisdom Dominion Mirror Match is at its worst right now, because you can get these out of your opponent's deck for 5 mana and 3 levels with Advanced Despina, which is just broken. So, Powerlust Incarnate is incredibly strong. Incredibly, incredibly strong. In fact, I would have liked this one to be the 3-level, 3 mana. It would still be just as strong in the late game. It would still be incredibly powerful in the late game. But it meant that you can't play it on turn 3, leave it on the back row, and just go mana Titan. And then you have 2 4/4s. Next turn, second Dominion level, Helm your guy, attack for 8. This happens on curve. And I think that the card is way too strong. I do think the card is way, way too strong. I think it should be Drela cost, basically. It would still be just as powerful late game, because the mana is the same, so once you have the levels, it's still relevant. It would be just as powerful late game. It would make Wisdom Dominion Mirror Matches less miserable, and it would not be able to snowball in the early game. But this Incarnate is just way too strong. Now, the only downside of it being 3 levels is actually Harpy. Harpy is what deals with this, and Sleep, but mostly Harpy. So you've got Harpy deals with it, and Tempo Wisdom deals with it. And also, you've got Ray of Righteousness, but then they have other creatures that they have to deal with, like Karthus, that can kill your spell wardens. So you've got Karthus that can kill all of the angels apart from Antriel, and can also kill your spell wardens, so you have to have your Ray for Karthus, right? Then they also have Bloodseeking Mutant, that weakens all of your stuff, and will get bigger, so you have to Ray that. Then you got Powerlust Incarnate. Like, Dominion has some of the highest creature quality of any faction right now, which is just absolutely crazy. So the only 2 decks that can really handle Powerlust easily are basically Corruption decks and Tempo Wisdom. The reason I say Tempo Wisdom is because Tempo Wisdom plays 4 Flash Freeze and 3 or 4 Sleep. And those all deal with Powerlust Incarnate. It doesn't have Unstoppable, so you can Flash Freeze, and unless it's mono Dominion, it probably won't have 4 speeds. You can block it with Library Guards, or you can just double Flash Freeze it, which is not efficient, but it can work. But the main one is Sleep. Sleep will permanently deal with the Powerless Incarnate. Dominion has 0 ways of dealing with it. Now, the problem is that if they're playing Powerless Incarnate in a Dominion Corruption deck, then they can just kill your Sleeps, and if they're playing it with Wisdom, then they still can't do anything about the Sleep, which is actually quite important, but it does mean that they'll have more threats because they can draw through the deck faster. So I think mono Dominion works right now, but I don't think it's where you want to be. I think that splashing the extra color is more important, and the fact it's 1 level, as it turns out, this may be playable, and I'm not even joking, this may be playable in a 3-level Corruption Dominion deck. Why? Because as it turns out, a 3-mana 10/10 with 1 speed is still playable. But I think it's the most powerful Incarnate. But the 3 top Incarnates are incredibly strong. The Wisdom, Order, and Dominion ones are ludicrously strong, and I think they will all get nerfed at some point. I think, like, Ruin the Incarnate may be the one that gets left alone, and I think the reason it might be the one that gets left alone is because you have to work for it the most. You actually have to invest in it. It does grow on its own, but it's very slow, so you actually have to invest into it. You either have to have a might counter to make it good, or you need energy, so you need to invest into the card. Whereas Valorsworn gets bigger just by playing the game, and so does Power Lost. It just gets bigger by playing the game. You don't have to play it down and wait turns for it to actually be good. It's just good immediately. Deathbound Incarnate. This is the last of the Incarnates, and in my opinion, the most interesting card they have ever made. This is a very interesting card, and is actually Exotic's favorite designed card, I think he said, on stream yesterday. So, Deathbound Incarnate is 3 mana, 2 levels. Now, keep in mind that these actually, these don't all have different mana costs. They're pretty close, though. You've got 1, 2, 2... 3, and then extra level, extra level. I think they didn't want to have like a 4 mana one because that'd be a bit too much. So they've got variety in cost is the point. And I like the fact the Corruption one is the one that's 2 levels, so it means it works with Harpy. So anyway, Deathbound Incarnate is a 2-speed with, it deals damage to heroes in the form of decaying cards. This is interesting. And its attack and HP are equal to the number of creature cards in your opponent's graveyard. Now it says opponent's graveyards, which is implying multiplayer, which I think was actually a like backer goal thing for a year or something after the game came out. Don't quote me on that. I think I remember seeing it somewhere. But anyway, so this is a very, very strong card. However, the deck it fits in is not good. And this is the reason why I don't think the Deathbound Incarnate will be seeing play. I think it's more powerful than the Nature one by a significant margin, having actually looked at it. But unlike the Fire one, it does not fit into a deck. We've got the Flameborn over here. This fits into a deck nicely and is really strong and is cheap. And then you got this one, which is very powerful. It just doesn't fit into a deck. It just doesn't. The rest of the Incarnates do. The Nature one just wasn't powerful enough to make the cut. But Deathbound Incarnate has, what, Vulture and Nightbringer. That's the only thing that really fits with it. And I guess Harpy, but Harpy kills your own Vultures and your own Nightbringers. So what you need to do is you need to play your 4 Deathbound Incarnates, and you need to have 4 Reanimate, use your Vultures and Harpies. Like, you need to use Vulture just for mill. Use your Vultures, your Harpies. Maybe you run Order because you can go Vulture, Path, put it under the Path, Vulture, Vulture, and then, like, break your Path, put them all into play, mill more. However, once it gets going, this control deck, Deathbound Incarnate will kill them incredibly quickly. It is an incredibly fast clock, because you hit them once, say if it's an 8/8, you mill 8 cards. And then if it has 5 creatures in it, the next swing deals 13. And then the next swing probably kills them. Because it will probably mill 20 cards at that point. And then you've already gone through 40 cards. Keeping in mind that this is a control finisher. Which means that once you have 8 Incarnates in your deck, because you got 4 and then 4 Reanimate, you have 8 Incarnates in your deck. And as soon as one of them starts hitting, the game is over, basically. Because the game will finish very fast. The card is incredibly strong. The deck itself, I don't think has enough pieces. I think you're missing that one piece. Like, you've got Flash, and then you've got Vulture, and, like, Harpy, I guess, to deal with the other Incarnates and aggro. The deck sounds good. I'm just not sure if there's enough pieces to make it work. That's what I'm going to say about that. I think that the deck sounds very good, and I think that when a next set comes out, like when we get the second half of Valiant Dawn, which is the second set, basically, maybe it'll just be really good. But for now, I don't think this has a place. We'll see. I'll try a mill deck at some point. But I think the card itself is very strong. But there's just a missing piece. So anyway, that's my entire hour-long spiel. I managed to cut the 3 hours of patch discussion down to an hour. I'm quite pleased with that. On all of the change cards. Now, this is just the change ones, and then you also have the new Incarnate. So in total, 37. 37 cards change is the biggest patch we've ever had, and I'm expecting this will be the biggest balance patch we're ever going to get. I might be wrong, but I'm going to say this is probably going to be the biggest balance patch. Now, we will get new sets, which are going to be bigger than like 37 cards, obviously, in terms of like the bigger sets. However, when it comes to actually like balancing, I think this is going to be one of the biggest sets we ever get. I mean, like, biggest sets of changes we ever get, and it's a big deal, and this makes me excited as a deck builder. I love deck building, and this is the kind of stuff that makes me want to play the game a lot more. So anyway, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put it in the comment section below. If you're following Spellweaver, I'll be streaming Spellweaver for the next week at least, every day at 7 PM UK time. As far as Duelist content goes, I will still be covering Duelist, and I'm not sure what I'll be doing with Spellweaver in the future, like after the Invitational. It depends a lot on how its Steam release goes. It has been released on Steam, but I need to see kind of how much traction it gets and blah. But for now, I'm happy to be playing the game again, and I hope it will do well. But anyway, as now, it's been Jotto, signing off.